Well, good morning, everybody. It's so great to see you all. Oh, you don't know how great it is to see you. Love it. Love seeing you all. All right, guys, we're going to welcome. I want everybody to sing with me. And the choir, my church in Ocean Park choir, look at there. It's so even. Look, it just goes short to tall right there. So here we go. 1, 2. Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine, oh my Lord. For there may be someone down in the valley trying to get home. Yeah, clap, trying to get home. Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine, oh my Lord. For there may be someone down in the valley trying to get home. Let's do it again. You know, it's too low. Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine, oh my Lord. For there may be someone down in the valley trying to get home, trying to get home.
Oh, it may be
James, or it may be John, or it may be Moses leading the children home. For there may be someone down in the valley trying to get home, trying to get home.
Let your little light
shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine, oh my Lord. For there may be someone down in the valley trying to get home, trying to get home. Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine, oh my Lord. For there may be someone down in the valley trying to get home, trying to get home.
Now it may be
me, or it may be you,
or it may be
your brother or your sister too.
For there may be
someone down in the valley trying to get home, trying to get home. Let your little light shine, shine, shine. Let your little light shine, oh my Lord. For there may be someone down in the valley trying to get home, trying to get home. Let your light, let your light shine, shine, shine. I'll be all right. Let your little light shine, oh my Lord. For there may be someone down in the valley trying to get home, trying to get home. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, well.
Thank you, choir. It's here for Church in Ocean Park choir.
Hello? Hey! Good morning. I'm Janet Gollery McKithen, and I'm so happy that you're here this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to be here this morning. I'm glad to see each and every one of you. You might be one. You might have come in here and looked around and wondered if you're welcome here. You are welcome here. We're multi-faith. So you're welcome if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, if you're Hindu, if you're Wiccan, if you're spiritual but not religious, if you're atheist, if you're agnostic, if you're something else, something I haven't mentioned. We welcome you if you're single, widowed, married, divorced, gay, transgender, very rich, or living on the edge from nickel to nickel. We welcome people if you're fidgety, if you just woke up, if you just got out of your bathroom, if you just got out of the tub, if you have wet hair, dry hair, doesn't matter. We welcome soccer moms, tree huggers, latte sippers, vegans, junk food eaters. We welcome you if you're in recovery or if you're still addicted. We welcome you if you love organized religion or if you're repelled by it. We especially welcome you if you're standing in the need of prayer today. We welcome you if you've been hurt by organized religion and are here very tentatively and cautiously. We hope you'll find this as a place of healing and community. We welcome you if you're having problems or if you woke up on the wings of eagles or a little bit of both. We especially welcome you if you are here sitting in a chair right now. We welcome you, you, and you, and you. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park. We want to begin by acknowledging that we are sitting on the land that has been stolen. This land was taken violently from the Chumash, the Tongva, and the Quiche peoples. We acknowledge the harms of genocide, forced assimilation, enslavement, and destruction at the hands of U.S. settler colonialism. We also acknowledge that our communities and country was built on the backs of people stolen from Africa, placed into bondage, and forced into labor. We acknowledge that we benefit from that labor that has never been repaid. In our acknowledgement, let us commit ourselves to healing by helping to create a more just and equitable world through the struggle of changing how we do things that we see as normal in our everyday life, but are actually systemically hurting people. We all have biases. Nobody doesn't have a bias. And it takes intentionality to build compassion for people whose lives are different from ours. We seek to work together across boundaries to tear down unjust systems and build new relationships of healing and love. And we believe the way to peace and a better world is not through gunning down our opponents when there is no threat at a political rally or anywhere else. This morning you will hear from a variety of people. If you hear something you disagree with, know that they do not speak for the church in Ocean Park. Thank you for being a part of this community this morning. Thank you for helping breaking down the barriers and build more compassion. Thank you for being a part of the church in Ocean Park. We begin. Thank you for being a part of the church in Ocean Park. Yes. We are only the church in Ocean Park because of you. That's why we are the church in Ocean Park. We center ourselves each week with a chant by Thich Nhat Hanh. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now, 3 times. There's a lot that's happened this week, y'all, and as usual, a lot happened yesterday. Let's take a deep breath. Blow it out. And chant together. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I have arrived, I am home, in the and in the now. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park.
Bill Gordh is an award-winning banjo-playing storyteller, author, educator, early childhood and elementary literacy specialist, and consultant. He has performed with the New York Philharmonic at the Gerald Ford Amphitheater in Vail, Colorado, the Byzantine Fresco Chapel Museum in Houston, Texas, the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, the Clearwater Festival, and for 3 years was a featured storyteller at the White House Easter egg role in Washington, D.C. Please welcome Bill Gordh.
Thank you. The last time I sang here was at Bob and Trudy's wedding. And I seem to write a lot of songs about love, and here's one of them. Love begins with giving. Love begins with giving. Love begins with giving. And it grows and grows and grows. Like a seed planted in the ground, the sun gives its gift by shining on down. Clouds gives rain, and before you know, a flower's peeking out for a springtime show. 'Cause love begins with giving. Love begins with giving. Love begins with giving. And it grows and grows and grows. Like someone you just met today, your gift is a smile, there's nothing much to say. Time goes by, you're talking, and then before very long, why, you're the best of friends. 'Cause love begins with giving. Love begins with giving. Love begins with giving. And it grows and grows and grows. I think we can sing that. Love begins with giving. Love begins with giving. Love begins with giving. And it grows and grows and grows. Grows and grows and grows and grows. Grows and grows and grows. Thanks.
That's right. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. And this is an exciting morning. Mimi Kennedy is a friend of the church and a friend of ours, and many of us know her, but I would just tell you some things about her. Mimi is an expert on election integrity and other issues. She is the co-coordinator of Progressive Democrats of America election issues team. She was born in New York, Rochester. Mimi has spent her life performing, writing, and working to promote peace and progress. She's an actress, an activist, and founding National Advisory Chair of the Progressive Democrats of America. Mimi studied nonviolent theory and strategy with the late 60s civil rights leader, Reverend James Lawson. A founding member of Artists United to Win Without War, Mimi is a leading voice for peace and progress. A uniquely talented and versatile actress, she's appeared on stage, on television, and in feature films. Highlights include her roles as Dharma's hippie mother on the sitcom Dharma and Greg, as Ruth Sloan on Homefront. Her TV credits range from Night Court and Drop Dead Diva to St. Elsewhere, ER, House, and Grey's Anatomy. She appeared on stage in the Broadway and road companies of Grease and in the acclaimed one-woman show The Lady with All the Answers as Ann Landers. Recent projects include HBO's political comedy Veep, Woody Allen's rom-com Midnight in Paris, and BBC Films' anti-war satire In the Loop. She's a talented writer. She was a story editor for Knots Landing TV series, and her book, Taken to the Stage, The Education of an Actress, was praised as one of the great theatrical memoirs. She is a bold activist, though, and she has amazing insights into what's happening now, and I'm so thrilled that she's here to speak with us. But before she gets up and comes up to the stage, I want to also say that after she's finished, Larry Dilge, who you know from He Always Plays Here, is also here to play, and he is a teacher, once a teacher, always a teacher. And as a teacher, Larry organized teach-ins, demonstrations, and courses in nonviolence, wrote and performed political songs about ecology, drone warfare, and impeachment, while also providing the chance for students to learn by organizing in both politics and the arts. So they're an amazing, we are just overly blessed with abundance today. And so I want to first welcome Mimi Kennedy.
Okay. Oh, what a morning. Well, I'm going to say what I plan to say. And how it begins is, I confess that I don't like it when a speaker I've come to hear starts by asking the audience questions. I wanted to hear what the speaker had to say. But I'm going to ask you 3 questions that you can answer by raising your hands. The first is, how many of you before today have ever heard the term virtue signaling? Okay, well, you'd expect that from this church. It's very aware. So there's about half of us. How many of you would feel good or have felt good if you heard your behavior described with that term? Virtue signaling. Okay, no hands. How many would rather not be accused of it? Yeah, pretty much all of us. 2 months ago, on May 15th, I was at the Santa Monica City Council meeting with Reverend Janet and over 100 other activists. We were urging passage of a resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. 100 cities had already passed a similar resolution. Atlanta, Chicago, Dayton, Detroit, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Sacramento, Seattle, St. Louis, San Francisco, Toledo, just to name a few. That was the day I heard virtue signaling for the second time. I'd only heard it once before. I don't remember where, but my reaction the second time was the same as the first. Puzzlement, then resentment and disgust. The phrase appeared in a letter to the city council. It was opposing the resolution, and it called it an empty gesture, since a city has no jurisdiction over foreign policy, but it does have jurisdiction over its citizens' safety. And passing such a resolution would inflame harmful passions around the issue. Passage would betray the council's real duties in favor of meaningless virtue signaling. Right away, it sounded to me like a new right-wing talking point. And I expressed this feeling to Reverend Janet, who said to me, "Wow, you're really on fire about this. You should come talk about it at church." So here I am. The resolution passed, as you may know. At 2 o'clock in the morning, it took that long to hear everybody out, pro and con, and the views were overwhelmingly for the resolution. The city added an amendment, and it condemned expressions of hate, speech, acts of violence, and especially expressions of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. So Santa Monica thus joined all those other cities in virtue signaling to call for an end to atrocity. Because the U.S. is a democracy, we are increasingly aware of how fragile it is and that we could lose it without more civic engagement and education. More virtue signaling, if you will. However, my generation has been aware since Vietnam that some aspects of democratic self-government stop at the shut door of foreign policy. We've been led to war without consent in recent times as surely as if we are ruled by a king. We've opposed wars before they began in Iraq and Afghanistan with the same marching and speaking out that we've used to stop Vietnam, and now we're trying to stop this war in Gaza. And it takes pressuring local governments like the city of Santa Monica or Los Angeles to express views of constituents when there is a local majority that feel that way. Nonviolent democracy requires communities to virtue signal to the next level of power. In the process, citizens virtue signal to one another to organize and educate. But the United States is also an empire. Historians warn that empire and democracy cannot long coexist. And now, the Supreme Court has conferred immunity on the U.S. president for criminal acts performed as official duties. So they have legalized a flaw that has long marred our democracy. They didn't remove it, they legalized it. In military matters, The president can do much in our name that we the people know nothing about. The president can shield us from knowing who's killed or how or when or how many. And the president, in doing so, is shielded from accountability to we the people. In fact, it's increasingly apparent to me that one of the first things any new president is asked to do is to kill someone. A national security need arises. The president's expected to be tough. It's like being jumped into a gang. You have to get a little messed up to be trusted. The gang says we use violence, and we have to know when asked that you'll be willing to do the same. I guess that's what Obama meant when he disheartened many of us by telling some supporters, don't expect me to be your Martin Luther King. He wasn't a political neophyte. He knew what he was getting into. Recently, right-wing media princeling Tucker Carlson said it right out loud. Leadership requires killing. I don't know where that leaves his advocacy for Christianity and the Ten Commandments, but there it was. And he said it in admiration of Vladimir Putin's effective riddance of his political opponent, the popular Alexander Navalny, whom he had poisoned, jailed, and left to sicken and die in prison. Now, why don't we have a term for Tucker's verbal support of murder? Dog whistling doesn't cover it. This is right out loud support for political murder. Vice signaling? I looked up virtue signaling on the internet, and dictionary.com confirmed my suspicions. It's a relatively new term, 2015, and it was initially and still is mostly deployed against the left, against social justice activism. Writer James Bartholomew coined it in an article in The Spectator, a British news magazine that's the oldest weekly periodical in history. In the 19th century, it was around to ridicule Charles Dickens as merely a popular writer. It derided his work. It has always been staunchly conservative, and Boris Johnson was an editor from 1999 to 2005 before becoming Britain's chaos agent prime minister and arranging the disastrous Brexit. Bartholomew wrote that virtue signaling allowed people to, quote, display public words and positions with the sole intent of being welcomed and approved of without having to actually do anything. He complained that these public displays came from mere words or even from silently held beliefs. Putting aside the irony that Bartholomew was publicly displaying his view with mere words, maybe he marched for Brexit, I don't know. My question is, why is it only contemptible to express virtue and support for virtue with mere words? All other public verbal expressions, essays of speeches, criticism, opinion, advertising, they're not slandered as meaningless signaling without doing anything else. So why is it also wrong to support virtue because of silently held beliefs? Isn't that how we encourage ourselves, communities, and country to listen to the better angels of our nature? In our world, we are able now to be aware of almost everything everywhere all at once. And sometimes our instant responses to what we learn are our only means of expressing a deeply held belief at the moment, even in matters well outside our purview. We click, we share, we comment. Yes, activists know we must pray with our feet and work with our hands, but old and young, many of us are struggling simply to live responsible, sustainable lives in the circumstances where we daily find ourselves and our loved ones. So to shame people for virtue signaling across time and space is, to me, a direct challenge to the value we have discovered that we call intersectionality. We express support for things we can't immediately participate in because we cannot do everything everywhere all at once. Now, when we do, when we can, we do. That's what asking the City Council of Santa Monica to pass a ceasefire resolution was all about. When we can't come together in real time and space, we can signal Me too. It builds numbers. It helps us identify one another. To shame this because it's not full-time activism and people are not perfect saints is a devious means of suppression. I think I'm most incensed by the term virtue signaling because I know as an actress that powerful forces consider symbolic gestures very powerful, not meaningless. They work. I remember one of Hollywood's ugliest disavowals in the 80s was that Hollywood didn't create culture, we only reflect it. It's absolutely untrue, and they knew it. Witness the cartoons and movies that sell generations of children billions in merchandised clothing and toys. Corporations pay celebrities millions to endorse their products, and they don't care if the celebrities don't really use them or do anything else about it. So is that virtue signaling? Social media influencers develop careers simply by signaling. I've been asked to wear clothes with logos, do public service announcements for government initiatives like anti-bullying, tape Christmas greetings for overseas troops, all because these gestures are known to have an effect. So, to ridicule and make people ashamed of virtue signaling clearly culls the public conversation down to matters that don't matter, except to the making money, sports, entertainment, commerce. AM radio is full of that. Yet it is also full of political talk with a right-wing slant. Why is it only left-wing talk that should be ridiculed for its views as virtue signaling? One reason is that peace and justice messages might increase virtue signaling from the audience, and people might find out as these views spread that there are more of them who listen in agreement than they dared imagine. In the early 70s, I got a job on a TV commercial that was considered revolutionary. I played a young working woman who came home at the end of the day to find her husband doing the housework and emptying the dishwasher. The line, "Honey, I'm home," popularized by Desi Arnaz coming home to madcap housewife Lucy, was my line. The product was Cascade, a dishwasher detergent. My husband was dismayed by spots on the glasses. And when I saw he'd cheaped out by buying detergent that wasn't Cascade, I had to chastise him. They chose me, barely out of college, apparently because my look as a new career woman wasn't threatening, and I could chastise without emasculating. Great, I said, great. We saved a few pennies, but we got all these spots. The line was originally, "You saved a few pennies, but," and they thought that was too blaming, so it was changed to, "We saved a few pennies" during the shoot. Procter & Gamble understood the virtue signaling they were doing. They were letting us feminist gals know that they understood. They got it. We were no longer housewives, so we had to tell our husbands to buy Cascade. Now, this church has always, when I first arrived here, it had an altar that included all manner of religious symbols. Does this virtue signal its interfaith inclusion? Yes, it did, and I loved it. That thought suggests another. I grant that virtue signaling can sometimes annoy, which is how the term came into use, of course. But even if you agree with the views signaled, it can rankle. A Catholic friend of mine remembers when Ethel Kennedy draped a rosary over her microphone before sitting down at a congressional hearing. My friend somehow resented this use of the rosary as an implied threat. Watch what you say to me, God's on my side. And that image brings another thought. Religious habits and accessories are all public virtue signaling, really. Veils, collars, rosaries, crosses around the neck. Sometimes these signals attract and console, but they can also repel when we think they are masking hidden corruption. Still, Either way, they're a signal, always, of a deeper life we share, whether we agree with the particular symbol on view or not. The life of the soul, the mystery of our being here at all. Dictionary.com gives an example of virtue signaling that I actually participated in the ice bucket challenge. Does anybody remember that? Yes, some of us do. People poured buckets of ice water on their heads, and they were videotaped doing it and posted these videotapes online in order to show support for and raise awareness of the fight against Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. Those videos went viral. They got a lot of attention and donations. The whole cast of Mom participated in that virtue signal because we were asked to. We were asked to help, and we did. It was before anyone knew to sling the term virtue signaling around to shame us as hypocritical celebrities. I want to make sure that I haven't skipped something that I wanted to say. I haven't. Shaming children, it's well documented, impedes their healthy development. And I think it's true also with society. This virtue signaling term was coined to shame. No one wants to be shamed as a hypocrite or for not doing enough. Most good people I know have no trouble feeling that they're not doing enough. Some of us have good reason at times to fear being outed as being imperfect in some way if we step too far forward. Think how many of our leaders have been surveilled, then smeared with some sin in order to dishearten followers and discourage the movement. Gandhi was adamant that private self-restraint was a necessary part of practicing nonviolence. But he knew he wasn't perfect. No one is. As surveillance and outing were deployed to suppress social movements for justice, equality, and peace, so the cry of virtue signaling seems designed to nip organizing in the bud. Persuasion is a way of nonviolence. Convert the opponent. Mere words and symbolic gestures are often the means we use to express solidarity and connect with those beyond our immediate reach. If the empire starts wars without our knowledge, organized opposition in a democracy is still a way to try and stop them. So I await a handy term to shame what is truly shameful, expressions of support and solidarity for vice, greed, cruelty, violence, murder, hate. In the meantime, let the virtue signaling continue and proliferate. Of course, it's our inner work to practice living up to our stated ideals. But as we strive for a more perfect union of imperfect humans at this moment of existential global crisis, we need all the virtue signaling we can get. Thank you.
Great, Amy.
Thank you, Larry.
I got a song by John McCutcheon to sing to you. All right. You know, words are often based on action. Action is based on words. You know, to try to separate them and say mere words, words and action go together, as do stories, which are words about actions that enter our imagination and inspire us. So John McCutcheon has thought about some of this in this song. It has a chorus, and it would be fun to sing along with the chorus. And the chorus goes, we shall rise, from the silence, from the shadows, we will stand and recognize all the ones who've gone before us. The promise of the prize, ever spoken, never broken, we shall rise. I have been a long time traveling through this mighty land with my pack upon my back and this guitar in my hand. There are people, things, and places I haven't ventured yet, For everything that I remember, there's a dozen more that I forget. We shall rise from the silence, from the shadows. We will stand and recognize all the ones that have gone before us. The promise of the prize, ever spoken, never broken, we shall rise. I have known my share of trouble, but one thing I've learned is true, that the times are like the people, and the good ones see me through. If there's a light that guides me, when they both turn hard and mean, and the flame of that small candle, and by the flame of that small candle, now let me tell you what I have seen. I have seen the sweat of the farmer wrestle supper from the soil, felt the muscle of the miner in the cool dark day of toil, and in the office, the home, and the factory, I still see to my surprise, amidst the trouble and the triumph, we shall rise. We shall rise, we shall rise. From the silence, from the shadows, we will stand and recognize all the ones that have gone before us. The promise of the prize, ever spoken, never broken, we shall rise. I have eaten with the refugee, I have heard their children cry. They risked their lives to get here, now they're cursed and victimized. And those who give them shelter are attacked and criticized. They carry on, they know that we shall rise. And the chains will all be broken, the locks will all fall free, the doors will swing wide open for the whole wide world to see. And the powerful will understand as the scales fall from their eyes. It is not given, it is taken, we shall rise. We shall rise, we shall rise. From the silence, from the shadows, we will stand and recognize all the ones who've gone before us. The promise of the prize, ever spoken, never broken, we shall rise. And when we finally stand in judgment before our children's eyes, not a soul will be forgotten, we shall rise. We shall rise, we shall rise. From the silence, from the shadows, we will stand and recognize all the ones who've gone before us. The promise of the prize, ever spoken, never broken, we shall rise.
All right, and this is a time of community sharing. We are so amazed. Mimi, come on forward. People are already raising their hand. They can't wait for you to get here. Apparently, they're going to talk before you get here. This is our time when you can speak a little bit or ask a question. Joe, and then Bob.
I'm glad I got before Bob, because this is his territory, which is words, right? We're in the world of words. And, in Zoroastrian, it's good thoughts, good words, good deeds, right? And then it's really the connection between words and deeds where signaling becomes dismissive, right? And so that's what they're trying to do, is dismiss. And so, being a Gordh, which I am, my clan is from the military and we attack. And so I'm thinking, on the right wing, they use signaling a lot. They use anger signaling, they use victim signaling, and they have a different sense of what injustice is, right? And we, on the progressive side, we tend to not be as good at marketing our words, right? I'm always amazed at how AOC can, create it really quickly on the spot. I'm just amazed at how people can access, but it's around words, because words affect thoughts, and thoughts affect action. And so, you brought this up, and it's just a great time to talk about it because we're heading into apparently another election. And so it's like, how do we respond and not get caught up into the use of words as violence? Because that's really a hard thing, right? How do you not get into exactly the same game as they are? Because they're using it to say, what you're doing is not worthwhile. And that's and it's like, so do you follow it up? And, the thing is, if you only do it for show, then there is an emptiness to it. On the other hand, now is, I guess, the time for action. So now Bob gets to talk about words.
Okay, thank you, Mimi. That was just brilliant. One thought of mine about virtue, the phrase virtue signaling, is that as you said, it implies hypocrisy. It sort of, to my mind, it connotes the idea that the reason you're speaking is not because you believe what you're saying. You may not even believe it, but the reason you're saying it is that you're sort of showing off. You're trying to get approval from a certain in-group. And therefore, it's quite insulting for someone to say you are virtue signaling. It's pretty much accusing you of being disingenuous in your motivation. And it's worth noting that to call something virtue signaling is to use an ad hominem kind of attack. If you may have forgotten Logic 101, but it's an ad hominem attack is you attack the person, not what the person is saying. You don't give evidence to show that the person is wrong in what they're saying. You say something about the person that often that takes the form of talking of imputing a certain motive to the other person. They're just saying that for whatever reason. But it distracts, of course, from the question, is what they're saying justified? So I think one way of coming back at this without stooping to the same level would be to call people to look at the issues. Look at what's happening in Gaza, look at the number of people killed, things like that, not what's my motive for speaking.
Okay. That's absolutely true, I think, Bob. And I was going to say, to associate it with the previous comment, the hypocrisy implied in the accusation of virtue signaling is that you don't really believe it, or you're not doing anything else about it. So in James Bartholomew's article, he said, you're just trying to do it to be welcomed or accepted. And all I could think of, well, who doesn't want to be welcomed? Who doesn't want to be accepted? And if you want to be accepted and welcomed by people who are for justice, why is it wrong to approach this new attempt of your own conscience to be welcomed and accepted by people who are, going for social justice? And that's when I think the term is used against organizing. They just don't want anybody to want to be welcomed by peace and justice people. They don't want intersectionality. They want to keep us divided. And that's what I think. And then the other aspect of course, we must do more? Yes. And the other thing that virtue signaling does to us is it makes us feel that the things we're doing at home, the unseen things we're doing, that we're not on public display. I drove all the children to school for my sick neighbors today, and I'm going to pick them up, and I'm going to babysit, and I'm going to, help out someone who's sick. All those unseen things, which are improvisational and generally vary from day to day. It's not a movement. You can't say, I'm always doing this. It's a career. You're improvisationally responding to the needs around you. And nobody sees that. And you don't post it on the internet. So how does somebody know that when you're virtue signaling to stop a war, you're not doing more? That's the other reason I resent the term so vituperatively. I don't really know the word that I mean. Go ahead. I interrupted your question.
No, you kind of partially answered it. I like the concept of vice signaling because that's what it is usually. So I'm wondering, I don't think we can, I'm not sure we have the power to get that as noticed as virtue signaling, but what is... In real life, if you're confronted with it personally, what is the reaction to virtue signaling?
To virtue? Oh, you mean if you're confronted with it?
Somebody accuses you of virtue signaling.
Okay, you're just virtue signaling. Well, I think Bob had a wonderful answer to that, which is if you're in person being accused of virtue signaling, you can say, okay, so you think I'm a hypocrite. Yeah, but let's talk. What do you think about the idea I just proposed to you? And they'll have to say, I hate it. I'm really against it. I really want that war. I hate those people. And I'm on the other side of you. And you go, okay. And I take that held belief of yours to be a sincerely held belief. And I kind of resent that you don't think that what I've just said is sincerely held, because you don't really know what I do for things. Yeah.
This is really interesting, and I really appreciate what you had to say. And I was thinking about what Bob said, too. I mean, virtue signaling, the term is an ad hominem argument, and it's exactly an unwillingness to deal with the substance, right? What as a communist, what I keep thinking about is to what extent this is, the new red baiting, right?
For sure.
Right? In other words, so I wanted to bring that into the conversation and sort of wish that I'd worn my red T-shirt, right? I mean, if I'm going to virtue signal, I might as well do it, with red T-shirt on a daily, but, I only have one and, it's in a wash, so what are you going to do? But I do know that when I raise questions of sincerely held beliefs about substance, that capitalism is what inevitably leads to imperialism, and that you can't actually get rid of imperialism without getting rid of capitalism. I feel like people say, okay, yeah, but that's just virtue signaling. What are we going to do in November, right? Which is a way of dismissing those arguments, right? In other words, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this conversation, and I'm really grateful that you came and talked today.
It's interesting when one gets into economic arguments, and I didn't take economics, and I was pretty bad at history, though I'm interested in it now. Capitalism, imperialism, Marxism, the anti-Stalinist Marxism. I'm studying Mary McCarthy right now in the 30s. I need more education to even engage in that discussion with you, though ideologically I can say, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that's why we fight the wars, for resources. What are we going to do when it's all about water? Are we going to kill everybody that's got the, how are we going to, is that capitalism? Or is that just, to tribal grabbing of resources? It's a long conversation. And yet it's true for anybody to say, well, I don't think it's interesting. They would say your views were virtue signaling. They'd say, how dare you say that out in public? They would try to scare you. And scaring you is the same as shaming you. It's all to stop the conversation. And it says, because you can't really influence whether we're a capitalist economy or not, so why do you even have an opinion about it? It's ridiculous. But that is what we are being told. So I love that, that you are participating in this conversation, and keep going and educating people on the economics of our system versus other systems.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. And, a couple over there, but also Nate wants to speak. Go ahead, Nate.
I find this subject really triggering for me since it first started. And I'm an optimist, so I think that our world is really, really making a lot of progress. Like, we live in a much better world, than ever in most categories. But there's one category that it's not right now is incredibly complicated, unnecessarily bogged down with with these complications of living, just everyday living. Mm-hmm. Extremely complicated. And then I love virtue personally, honesty, right? Compassion, humility, courage. Those are the big ones, but they're all like that, and they're just like your most valued quality. Mm-hmm. And that's for every one of us to decide what they are for us. But they're like the best things. So for me, it's just we should all try to embody those things and behave in virtuous ways as much as we can, and then that's it. Mm-hmm. That's it. So if anybody brings this up, it's just like, it's a non-issue. Mm-hmm. We should all do it. Virtues are whatever you think is the best quality a human can have, and that's it. We complicate it. That's all.
I hope people could hear that. But yeah, he was saying virtues, we need them. Something arises in me. I think about how Roy Moore wanted to put the Ten Commandments, how they want the Ten Commandments in government buildings. Now, we could accuse people who want that of, well, you're just virtue signaling. You're putting up the Ten Commandments because you think that blesses your activities in that building, and it's completely hypocritical because you are killing and you are stealing and you are bearing false witness, etc. So I understand that it can be an accusation, but you know what I think? I think instead, well, I'm glad you think we should all be reminded of some commandments from a God of your book, because it's your moral code and you want to follow it and you wish we would all follow it. I get it. But not on government property, because we have a thing called the separation of church and state that was decided on by very virtuous men that you claim to be the wonderful founding fathers that we must all go back to. Women and the enslaved might have a different picture of that. But I try to grant the sincerity sometimes of people that want to do it. In corporations, I use Cascade. So in that instance I gave you, I get it. They want to sell their product. Probably I won't use it as much anymore because it does have stuff in it that's not good for the water. But I try to attribute to somebody signaling to me that they're trying to share something that they think is good. But I don't say you're virtue signaling and have a superior attitude towards whatever I am is much better than who you are, and you're a hypocrite. That's just a non-starter. It's terrible. And it's not nonviolence, and that's what we need, is nonviolence in every way. Mm-hmm.
Right. Hey, oh my God. Mimi, thank you so much. I mean, first off, I learned a new phrase because, believe it or not, it has not come across in my work or personal life. And I appreciate that. And I think I got it when I think about how, I think it was Tucker Carlson that recently admonished Nancy Pelosi for bringing up her husband's attack as an example of the wrongness of someone attacking Trump. She says, I know exactly how that feels, and it's wrong no matter who does it. And someone's response, and I think it was Tucker Carlson, said, this ain't about you. This isn't about your husband. It's sort of like, I mean, is that sort of in the same ballpark?
It's ad hominem, which Bob pointed out. It's not talking about the issue before us that we share as a challenge. It's saying, I don't like your way of addressing it because I don't like you and I have to dismiss you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much. Some thoughts came to my mind just now. One is concerning the language, like what I would use in the Caribbean. The language is different. We would talk about moral grandstanding.
Uh-huh.
And is moral grandstanding is a local term. Sure. So is moral grandstanding the same thing as virtual? Because the morality of the thing is a little different perspective.
Yes, it is.
And I also think that, like, sometimes you can use virtual posturing because it's a form of humor. It could be a form of humor where you try to present something that is not in order to show the inconsistencies and so on in it. You know.
Performative expression, symbolic or performative, or acting, what I do. Sean Penn once said, at least when we're acting, we know we're lying. That's why acting is good. And grandstanding, I associate it with politicians or, people, yeah. But again, sometimes this virtue signaling is kind of more to discourage what goes on the internet to some degree. And in terms of Santa Monica City Council, they didn't want it as a body to perform some action. Grandstanding, because 100 of others, grandstanding to me, but this is a long and wonderful conversation about language, but grandstanding assumes everyone else is listening and you're the only one doing it. Whereas with the city council, it was a movement. All these cities were doing this, so they were asking for a response that from a majority of constituents, let's join. But still, I think what you're talking about, there is a fine line. I mean, we have stuff that's just like virtue signaling that we have not liked. Hypocrisy. So the difference, what I didn't like about Bartholomew, he said this is mere words and it's just coming from maybe just your beliefs and you don't do anything else. It's like, pardon me. Okay.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your presentation and very in-depth. I really appreciate it. I was just thinking about the complexities, like why everything is like debated now. Like we can't see a child that's just been murdered. No, we have to go read like 6 books back in the history to decide that a child has just been murdered and it's not good, regardless of whatever ideological position. And, that's what troubles me. Like, why are we having a debate about that, Yeah. It's like so obvious that somebody is hurt, right? And I think the idea of this virtue, it actually started a lot from people who were saying there were people who just got on and talked about things but wouldn't put their bodies on the line,
Right.
wouldn't actually do the work.
Right.
And so I think it's the flip, they're trying to use it against
Yeah.
the persons who are saying, let's do more, you know.
That's right.
But it doesn't mean talking more, ideas more. And sometimes we do need people to just go straight. This is what I like about Facebook. Sometimes it's just one word or sentence that will make it clear what this thing is, because the other buzz and noise, that's what confuses people, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
And of course, there are those who have long noted that the complexities, as was stated, of our daily lives are almost meant to give us no time to put our bodies on the line in a crisis.
Right. Let's thank Mimi, and thank you all for your wonderful contributions. And now we'll have a moment of silence, and it'll be broken by a song from Bill Gordh.
This song, I've sang it here before. It's called "Did Trouble Me." It's by a beautiful singer-songwriter called Susan Werner. When I closed my eyes so I would not see, my Lord did trouble me. When I let things stand that should not be, my Lord did trouble me. When I held my head too high, too proud, my Lord did trouble me. When I raised my voice too little, too loud, my Lord did trouble me. Did trouble me. With a word or sign, with the ringing of the bell in the back of my mind. Trouble me with a third of my soul to make me human, to make me whole. When I slept too long and I slept too deep, my Lord did trouble me. He put a worrisome vision into my sleep. My Lord did trouble me. I held myself away and apart, my Lord did trouble me. When the tears of my brother didn't move my heart, my Lord did trouble me. Did trouble me with a word or a sign, with the ringing of the bell in the back of my mind. Did trouble me, stir my soul, oh, to make me human, to make me whole. This I know, my Lord will trouble me. Whatever I do and wherever I go, my Lord will trouble me. In the whisper of the wind, in the verses of a song, my Lord will trouble me. To keep me on the path where I belong, trouble me, did trouble me with a word or a sign, with the ringing of the bell in the back of my mind. Did trouble me, did stir my soul me whole. Make me human and make me whole.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So that is just one example of some of the things that are happening at the church in Ocean Park that you might not know about. So one of the ways that you can virtue act is because everybody here probably knows of some of the programs that happen, but I don't think there's anybody that knows really all of the things that have come out of this place. And so that I just wanted to share that one with you because it is a new endeavor, and there are a lot of people that are involved that you may never see on Sunday morning. So the bucket is for change, and the baskets are for things that don't make any money, any money, any noise. Thank you. And I want to, as the baskets are going around, instead of singing this. All right. Thank you so much. And one of the other unique things about the church in Ocean Park is we have somebody that does bread, and they sign up, and we have no idea what they're going to say, and especially today because it's Fred.
You want to hand them for now? Well, speaking of music, I guess this kind of fits in. Some of you know, and some of you don't know that I'm part of a group on Mondays. 4 to 6 poets get together and review music from the most obscure to the newest singles. And Don Kingfisher Campbell, a poet from Pasadena, runs the group and films us, and we post 4 to 6 videos every Monday on Facebook and YouTube. A couple of months ago, one of his reviews was on a Swedish jazz bass player, and he played a snippet, and I said, whoa, I kind of like that. And I've been listening to 2 or 3 of his records, and then one day last week I thought, maybe I'll do a little more exploring into this guy, and then I found out he teamed up with an Italian trumpet player that I like. And it's very rare to find an album with just a bass player and a trumpet player. And it really works. And then that trumpet player led me to a trio he's in. Then he led me to a Cuban piano player, keyboard player. And so all of a sudden, I've got 5 albums that I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, but I just want to briefly tell you about 3 that. One came out in 2018. It's Lars Danielson on bass and Paolo Frazzu from Italy on trumpet. He's an Italian player. He plays trumpet and flugelhorn. And the album starts off with a version of Autumn Leaves, which is just a gorgeous version. And a critic said these 2 musicians choose their notes so carefully and beautifully, and that the way they're playing together with only 2 instruments, there's no place to make a mistake. They hit each note and make it count. It's a musical conversation that's full of beauty all through the album. It's a fresh and soothing breeze. So then I knew of this Italian trumpet player because he was in another unique group. He's in a group with a trio, and it's Richard Galileo that plays with him, and he's from France, and he's an accordion player. And the other player, Jan Ludgren, is on piano from Sweden. So you've got an Italian, a Swede, and a Frenchman playing together in a unique situation trumpet, accordion, and piano. And they put out 3 albums, and I had 2 of them already, and turned some people on. The first one came out in 2007, and the albums are called Mir Nostrum 1, 2, and 3. And of course, it's just an incredible balance of unique musicianship, and it's jazz, tango, a little bit of classical notes thrown in, and bossa nova. And they do mostly original tunes, but on the new album, they do an incredible version of Windmills of Your Mind. And I looked them up, this trio, and they've done 150 concerts in 20 countries over the years. And then I thought, wow, this trumpet player, I looked up in Wikipedia, and they've only got a partial list of his albums, and I found out he's recorded 130 albums in his career so far. And one reviewer said, it's almost like an athletic pursuit to keep up with this guy. And what led me to the next set of albums was that he plays with this Cuban player on keyboards, Omar Soso. And I had one of his albums, so I said, I got to listen to this. And then I find out they brought in a Brazilian celloist, which I love and have some of his recordings. His name is Jacques Merlan. And he used to play with Jobim in Brazil, the king of bossa nova. And this is really a great mixture. Trumpet, Cuban, with cello on at least 5 different cuts. It's got a incredible depth to it. It's some of it has a light electronic field going through it on keyboards, electronic keyboards. The 3 of them just play so well and bring something different to the table that just astonishes you as a listener. All the elements just work together, and they do an incredible version of Paul Simon's Under the African Sky, which goes into a nice, just leisurely recording. I highly recommend any of those.
So the song is called "We Can Be the Light," and the idea is that no matter what happens, there's still light in us, and in the worst of times, there's still light in us, and if we can do that, we can make a difference. And so there are little verses, and each time I'll sing a line, and then you sing, "We can be the light." It has a little pause after "we," because it lets us know that it's we. It's just not "we can be." It's "we can be the light." And then the chorus is "We can be the light, we can be the light. We can be the light, we can be the light. When all the world is dark as night, we can be the light." That's the chorus. We can be the light, we can be the light. When all the world is dark as night, we can be the light. When there's darkness all around, we can be the light. When the road cannot be found, we can be the light. We can be the light. We can be the light. When all the world is dark as night, we can be the light. When I am lost and feeling low,
We can be the light.
when I don't know where to go,
We can be the light.
we can be the light. We can be the light. When all the world is dark as night, we can be the light. When you feel like no one cares, we can be the light. Don't you know that we'll be there? We can be the light. We can be the light. We can be the light. When all the world is dark as night, we can be the light. We can be the light. We can be the light. When all the world is dark as night, we can be the light. When all the world is dark as night, we can be the light. Beautiful.
We're going to say something together. We're going to say carry on. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Carry on.